When you want to export a comp, you have two options. You can use the render queue, an option that's been around forever, or use the newly added export to Adobe Media Encoder. I think people are going to gradually migrate to the Media Encoder, and I'll explain why in just a moment. In this lesson, I want to show them operating side by side and then focus on the Media Encoder. The long-standing routine for exporting from After Effects is to go to Composition and then Add to Render Queue. It opens up the render queue down here with that comp in the render queue with a couple of options here. Composition, and then add to the Adobe Media Encoder queue, like so. That opens up a separate program that operates in the background. You can be chugging away in the encoder here while you're still working inside After Effects. Let me put these guys side by side so you can get a better look at them. I'll click on this and we'll shrink you down a little bit. Let's take a look at the render queue here. There are two options here, Output Module and Render Settings. If I click on this little drop-down list, you see a list of output modules. One thing that's interesting is what's missing from the list, and that's QuickTime. But if I click on the hot link here, and then go to Format, there is QuickTime. If you look at the list here, you might notice that something's missing. It's always hard to spot things that are missing, right? But there are things that are missing from there. What's missing is AAC audio, which is a high-quality audio, plus 3 video formats, H.264, MPEG-4, and Windows Media. Also, what's missing are still image formats. Let's take a look at the Media Encoder over here. If I click this drop-down list, you'll see that we have H.264, MPEG-4, and Windows Media, plus a number of still image formats and then AAC. So there are more options inside the Media Encoder. Some things have been removed from the output module settings inside After Effects, so that way they show up here inside the Media Encoder, sort of forcing your hand to use the Media Encoder. Once you start using it, you'll find that it's a friendlier thing to use anyway. Nevertheless, back here to the output module settings, you select something from here, for example. We'll go on down and select QuickTime, which is kind of standard. And then there's a format option over here. And over here, you pick the codec. So it's kind of a process, but you can get H.264 this way. I'll cancel out of this. Then once you do that, you go over to the render settings, which is a different dialog box, and click on that. And here you choose the render settings where you might want to reduce the quality, for example. The Media Encoder is a little friendlier. Either of these links take you to the same dialog box. They're both hot links to the same place. So you click on them and it opens up the Export Settings dialog box. It shows you what the output's going to look like the source and the after. So depending on the setting you choose over here, this will change. Then you go to a format. I'm going to go to H.264 here, for example. H.264 has this great preset called Matching the Source, which is wonderful. That basically gives you the best export you can get from H.264. That's a good thing. But you have options to override that down here in these various tabs, particularly video, where you can scroll through here and you can change these things. Right now they're grayed out, but you just uncheck it and you can then change that as you wish. You can also adjust audio settings and several other settings here too. You can also click this Use Maximum Render Quality. Good things here that are all available in one place. When you want to give it a name, you click on Output Name and it gives you a folder location, then you can name it that way. Very similar to what you do over here when you click on this Output To, same kind of a process. QuickTime is kind of the one exception to this whole process of picking a format and a preset. With QuickTime, you go down here, select QuickTime, and then you have a preset, but only a select number of presets here, kind of limited. Then you go on down to the codec here, and it's all in one spot. The process is like 2 steps fewer than you go through over here, but you end up doing kind of the same thing when you're done. You can do H.264 inside QuickTime over here. So my thinking is that most folks are going to start migrating to the Adobe Media Encoder. It's an all-in-one kind of a device. You can see your work as you work on it. All the options are in one dialog box, and it can run in the background.